You're watching Revelation, the program with a biblical perspective.
For the next 3 programs, you can witness the most incredible testimony of a young man who was stung by the deadly box jellyfish. He was pronounced dead by the hospital doctors. They tied a tag on his toe and placed him in the morgue. He then found himself first in hell, and then later he was standing before the living God. Ian did not believe in either heaven or hell before this experience, but he now testifies about these places because God gave him his life back in order to encourage us that there is life after death, and there is a new heaven and a new earth, which God has prepared for those who believe, just as promised in the Bible book of Revelation chapter 21. Here is the first of 3 parts of this very fascinating testimony.
I was just travelling around the world, my experience with God. I was surfing and I had a diving accident where it appears as though I was pronounced clinically dead for approximately 15 minutes. And during that time, I found myself caught up in the presence of God and just continually wave after wave of His love and acceptance began to flow through me. It's like a tangible presence of God, and His light just flooded me with incredible peace. And as I stood in His presence and encountered more of God, it radically transformed my life. Prior to this, as you're saying, I was a non-Christian, I was an atheist, and my concept of God was that, well, He wasn't there. It was just all fairy tales. It was all mythology. It was obviously for weak people who believed in religion, couldn't handle reality. So for me, it was a transforming point in my life. I was 24 years of age, and I had been travelling for 2 years, from 1980 to 82, surfing, like hitchhiking around the world through Southeast Asia and through Africa. And I'd ended up on a small island called Mauritius. This island had great surf, good diving, and I thought I could retire here. I'd sailed there in 81 and seen it and gone back to it from Africa. And the fishermen that I lived with were Creoles. They were laid back, lived off the ocean. And I just surfed with them and dived with them. While I was diving on the island, they taught me to night dive. Now I'd taught people how to dive and instructed them. I was a qualified lifeguard. But I'd never night dived, and these fishermen taught me to night dive. It was quite freaky, you know, going out at night, but we used to dive on the outer reef. Mauritius, it drops off about 13,000 feet. It's basically a submerged mountain. And so we'd dive on the outer reef from 11 at night to about 1 in the morning. And as we dived, we'd look with our diving torches because the crabs and the crayfish would come out, and they're scavengers, so they'd scavenge the reef. And with your torchlight, you could blind them. And with your leather gloves, just pick them up. So we would catch as much seafood as we could, sell it to the tourist hotel, which is how the fishermen earned their living. And for me, I wasn't into the money, I was just into seafood. So go home, cook a bunch up, have a good feed, and, you know, crawl into bed about 2 in the morning and have a bunch of seafood. You know, parrotfish would be asleep. So you get a few fish for dinner and plenty of seafood. And so we were living on these, you know, when you travel for 2 years, you've got to live pretty cheaply. And so we were living on about $1 to $2 US a day in small huts on the village, near the village. This particular night I went out diving. It was a bit different because I saw there was a storm at sea, and I thought, oh, there's something, maybe the surf will come up on the reef. So I'd dive for years. So I thought, oh, I talked to my friend Simon. I said, oh, Simon, the surf might come up, it'd be dangerous. He said, oh no, this storm of mist, Ian. We go to a new place tonight. You see best diving in Mauritius. Now, like a good fisherman, he threw out his bait, reeled me in, and so at 11 that night we got all our diving gear in the fishing boat and rowed off out through the lagoon, crossed the outer reef, and then rowed and poled our way down from Tamarin Bay, where I was living, to a place called Rivière Noire, Black River. As we slipped in, it was quite dark because the clouds were coming in, so there was no real moonlight, and it was a little bit of a chop on the water. But as I slipped into the water, my 2 friends had already gone in. As I slipped in, something smashed into my arm and stung me. Oh, I wondered what on earth it was. It felt like an electrical shock. Now, the other 2 divers had swum off to my left, going up onto the reef, and I'd just been hit by something. I couldn't see what it was. It was excruciating pain, like electricity had gone into my arm. My first thought, electric eel. I thought, well, never seen an electric eel, don't even know, you know what I mean, except in an aquarium. What was that? So I looked around the water and started making out these jellyfish. I thought, well, it can't be them. You know what I mean, jellyfish don't do that. You know, they'll sting you, but nothing like that. But these jellyfish are a bit different. They were bell-shaped or torpedo-shaped at the top, then box-shaped, finger-like tentacles. I thought, well, is that a jellyfish? Yeah, it must be. So I reached out and grabbed it with my gloves, and sure enough, it was a jelly. As I swam through, I had no idea that I'd just reached out with my leather gloves and grabbed potentially some books say the deadliest, some say the second deadliest creature known to man, a box jellyfish, obviously, because it's box-shaped. But I'd never read anything on it. I'd never heard about it. And so here, I just had a box jellyfish go through my hand. Now, this particular species in Australia is well known and has killed over 70 people. In New Zealand, no one's really even heard of them because it's colder water. We're further south, so these particular jellyfish are more in the tropical regions. And it has killed over 70 people. It's so deadly that some scientists are now saying the venom is more deadly than cobra, taipan and black mamba. But as this jellyfish went through my hand, I thought, oh, well, I wonder what that is. Kept swimming. Then as I kept looking for crays, something else smashed in my arm. This time I saw the tentacles of this jellyfish going past me. I realised, oh man, I must have been hit the first time by one. I began to swim over towards the reef to talk to my friends about them, and another one hit me. And I thought, gosh, there's so many. There's heaps of them in the water. It's like I'd swum into like a whole soup of them. Now, jellyfish are very hard to see at the best of time because they're so transparent, but at night, very, very hard to see. And they were kind of smashing into me. As I asked my friend to surface, he came up, he said, "Kissa Fairman, what's happening?" I said, "Something hit me, Simon." He said, "You get out on the reef, brother, we have a look." So he had been swimming off to the left, and the jellies are over here to the right, and he hadn't seen them yet. As I put my head back into the water to climb up onto the reef, coming off the outer reef, just the surge of the tide, was a jellyfish being dragged back into my face. As I put my face directly in its path, I had one shot. It was either going to hit my neck, or all I did was just roll in the water, throw my arm in front of my face to protect my throat, and got hit a fourth time. As the fourth one hit me, I pulled the tentacles off and climbed up onto the coral reef. There's a low tide, it's about 2 foot cover in the reef. As I stood there, I looked at my arm with my torch, and what amazed me is my arm had already swollen to double its normal size. Where the tentacles are hit were like burn blisters, and I could feel the toxin pumping through my blood system up into my lymph glands with excruciating pain. I thought, man, what's happening? My right lung started to be constricted as I stood there. Perspiration was pouring off me, and it felt like a branding iron had been put on my arm. As my friend Simon came out of the water, he looked at my arm, and in French he went, "Qu'est-ce que fait, Jan? What's happening?" I showed him my arm. He went, "Envisable." It's like he knew what it was. And when he said in French, "Envisable," I recognised it to be an invisible one. Well, this jellyfish was so invisible, I thought, yeah, okay, "Envisable." He said, "Pardon, envisable, tac, c'est fini for you." Yeah. And in French, he's telling me, "C'est fini" means the end. One's enough to kill you. Now, this man had been diving as a child. He was one of the most respected fishermen in the village. The Creoles hated diving at night. It took courage for a man to conquer the fear of darkness and night diving, so they respected him for it. And so he stood there, and I watched him turn his torch onto his face, and he went as white as a sheet. He said, "How come you not know, Ian? This one kill you, brother." I said, "I not know, Simon. You think white men know everything, huh? I not know this one." He said, how many hit you, huh? How many tuck?" I went, cut on bizarre 4. He went, impossible, allez, vite.